Welcome in today, everyone. We are going to be talking about mining. So today is the day that we tackle one of the most popular professions in the game, which is one of the reasons I've sort of put it off until now, is that I feel like a lot of people do mining. This is a very popular profession, and so it's not as unknown as maybe some of the others. But we covered logging, so I figure we need to start covering mining. So you would think that it would be as easy as diggy hole, and you could just put rocks into your pocket and then put them into chests just like Minecraft. Nope. Mining ends up being a sort of complex and deceptively difficult profession to start out with. The first things that we're going to talk about with mining is storage, tailings, and then we're actually going to dive into materials, tools, processing, masonry, smelting, and the actual sort of profession itself. But I feel like this is where we need to do a little conversation about storage, how to sort of game plan. Everybody does this a little bit differently. However, it's really important. I had a couple newer players on this server, and I tried to explain this on stream, and even tried to explain it. It didn't quite sink in until they actually started to mine and realize that storage is probably the hardest part of mining. All right, so we have two different sizes of storage pretty much. You have your basic stockpile, which allows you 5x5 block of items. And this is going to be, for the longest time, your method of storage, because you can make this easy peasy. You don't need any specialty or any complex materials, which for the large lumber stockpile, this is going to be your baby. Once you're able to make those, they are just absolutely incredible. One of the reasons these guys are so incredible is that you can stack things to 40 versus 20. So in your regular stockpile, you can only stack to 20. In your large stockpile, you can go to 40, which is so nice. So it's not only bigger, it's also allows you to stack larger sizes. So exponential with that, but it does take up a ton of storage. So just like you can see here, this is our industrial base that we built. You will oftentimes use your roof of your house, of your building, as storage. Personally, I find it slightly unsightly, and I like to try and get my storage underground as quickly as possible, which you'll see over at my house. But if you don't mind it, you can tower up, you can stack up. And Thundernut, who's sort of newer to the game, is doing that. He's basically taken and made a enormous tower here. And we can't go in there, but he basically behind here has a bunch of stockpiles, and he's enclosed them now. But for many a week on the server, you could just see stockpile floor. So you can tell he's definitely the miner masonry guy. Thundernut's hobbit hole of mining and stuff and hammering and smashing. You get the point. So he is definitely sort of our typical miner, as you would expect with, sort of the stockpiles and everything. All right, so let's get back over to the industrial complex. Now that we've talked a little bit about storage, you will want to plan ahead at least a certain amount, because you are going to be more productive than your storage will be able to keep up with. So as a miner, you will end up having to mess around with storage probably more than any other profession, and that's just the way it goes. As you mine a block, it creates a block. So unlike in many other games, you do not the blocks don't just disappear into the infinite, into your pockets. They are actual physical blocks. So one block from here ends up being one block in your storage. Plan accordingly. So you get, 25 blocks mined. Well, no, you get 125 blocks mined, and there's your storage. So I always like to bring my cart with me. This is a great example. So here's my little cart down here. Let's just real quick, let's just drag all that out. So we have an empty cart. So this is a miner's best friend. Whether it's a small cart, whether it's a wheelbarrow, whether it's this, you're just going to be picking up and putting down your cart as you go down the levels. This is sort of your teleporter. This is your magic teleporter from place to place. So as you are mining your materials, you're going to be placing these in your cart. From your cart, if you have your storage nearby, you'll be able to plunk them into your storage nearby. So this is really, really helpful. Making sure your storages are linked is also very key, kind of thinking about it in that terms. Now, while we're here, let's just talk about the process of mining. When you break a block, you will get 3 different items to start with. You will get 2 little green items, which means you can pick them up right away. And then you're going to get the larger chunks, which are these yellow ones, which require you to hit them one more time to be able to pick it up. So there are talents later on as you level your mining up that gives you the ability to negate those larger blocks. So let's go into our specialties. Let's get our mining specialty and pull that up. So as you go through, there's certain things that you're able to do. That's on some workbenches, which we'll get into shortly. But you first off, you get a, at level 3, as everybody does, you get a choice between your tool being basically one sort of level higher or doing more damage. I forget what the other perk to it is. I chose the one that increases the damage by 1. So basically, if I have a stone pick, it acts like an iron pick acts like a steel pick acts like a modern pick. So it gives you sort of it gives you 1 level up to your tools. And then at level 6, you get to choose between either sweeping hands, which means that you press F and all the rocks in the area will get picked up. Or the other one is you don't get those large blocks. So you can kind of choose based on your playstyle. This is really a great one if you're mining with a buddy. One of you gets sweeping hands and one of you gets the large chunk one. And you literally can have one person actually mining that has the large, no large chunks. And then you can have the other person that has sweeping hands coming along and picking everything up, which is fantastic. So what you're seeing here is I have sweeping hands because when I press F on these, I pick up all the little items nearby. Obviously, you can see the big items are still here. And I would say as far as best practices with mining, I really rather prefer to mine drop. It is a lot of fun. I know many of you are probably going to be like, but boss lady, I love doing this. So it's really fun to do this where you just go and you're mining 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 and you're mining. And there's now like a giant wall of mined items and you get this giant pile of everything. And this is sort of staying contained because we're in a little square area. I'm trying to make this messier than it is. It's like, come on, game. I'm trying to do a tutorial here, game. Cooperate with me. It's like, no, we're gonna keep everything just fine right here. So you can see, right? Like, oh, okay, it's not too bad. But the problem is that the game has some quirks. And when you get a lot of items like this, even mining in a tidy way, when you get a lot of items like this, what you'll start to see is that they're colliding and interacting and they teleport up to the surface, especially when you mine this way where you have just piles and piles and piles of stuff. Items start teleporting, you start just getting random pieces of rock or whatever up on the surface, and that's not ideal for your server. It's not really ideal for the cleanliness of your area, and you're losing out on materials too. So I would highly suggest sort of mining until you get a armful. You know, you can't pick up any more. Go put that in the cart. And again, this is why I like having the cart right here, is that it makes it really easy. Ah, oh, darn, I broke the floor. So I'm a little OCD as a human, which you'll find out about me. You can't replace solid blocks like of things like shale and natural materials. So I try to like mine perfectly so I don't divot it, although we are going to be mining down because we want to go down the same level as here. So it's not too big of a deal, but especially with the walls, I try not to dig into them because I like to have them nice and square and flat, but that's just a personal thing. Okay, so I totally got sidetracked into mining, but that's sort of different practice. You know, everybody has their thing. Obviously, you are able to mine 5 blocks before you have to place them in there because each one gets 4. You can carry a stack of 20. Again, you just, you know, take your materials, drag them into your closest stockpile. I would suggest naming stockpiles is very, 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 very important. We have our sub stockpile. So this is like our basement. We also have our tailings temporary storage, which for the case of this, we will use this crushed rock as our tailings example. So naming your storage is good practice to get into. That way you're not kind of, you know, trial and erroring things. So now we're going to talk about how to process your materials. You have 2 sort of pieces that you're going to be doing. You're going to be getting the rock, and you need to crush your rocks. Whoops. So you need access to an arasta. So the arasta crushes up your ores, it crushes up your rocks, and it nets you with materials. So with your iron ore, when you mine your iron ore, you crush it down, you end up getting crushed iron ore and then crushed sandstone. So you get your ore, you also get your byproduct. This makes pretty much sense, real life. You want to start breaking things down, getting the minerals away from the rock that it came in. And you can do a certain different levels of materials. You'll notice you can do shale, sandstone, limestone, and granite. This is really key. There are some other stone types such as gneiss and basalt that you cannot crush in the arasta. That's just an important sort of thing to make note of, so that if you are mining in an area where you have a bunch of basalt, you're not going to be able to process that through as easily as if you have granite, sandstone, limestone, and shale. Talking about the different materials, limestone is such an important material when you start to get into tier 2, 3, and 4, that limestone is more important than gold or anything else on your server in a lot of ways. So definitely keep note of that. If you're a miner at the beginning, you're going to want to sort of keep your limestone, not turn that into roads or anything else that you do to kind of get rid of excess material as you're mining. Granite and sandstone, really, you know, those are your 2 basic materials that you're not really gonna do a whole heck of a lot with, other than turning them into research papers, other than turning them into roads. Just, you know, the stone itself can be used for the research papers. The crushed stone that's the byproduct from processing these things can be used in roads and things like that. So that's good to know. And then the shale is used in bricks, which is a tier 2 material. So sort of knowing your different rocks and who's going to be using them is really, really important. As a miner, you're gonna be underground a lot, so get used to it. Also, people are gonna need coal. You crush coal. That's how they use coal. Just FYI there. So let's go back up here. So when we built this, we had the Rastas up here, and then we had the rocker boxes, but we've upgraded since. So the Rastas are downstairs, sort of as our non-pollutant version of how to process through things right now. But the Arasta is, or the rocker box is your second piece that you're going to need. Now, the rocker box is where we get our first set of tailings. This is where wet tailings come in, and you really need to have a plan in place before you start using your rocker box, okay? Just if you're new, if you're returning to the game after a while, you're like, yeah, I kind of remember that thing about tailings. So tailings is the one thing that will get you into the biggest fights on any server, is if you do not store your tailings properly, people will swoop in super quickly. I was on a server that we just kind of randomly joined way back when I was learning the game, and someone came onto the server. They were doing mining stuff. They had a stockpile pile full of tailings, and literally they didn't really know what they were doing. Other people freaked out. They kind of retaliated by leaving them. Eventually, the group that was in charge of the server changed the government so that they could access the stockpile, so that they could get rid of the tailings so that it didn't pollute the world. It was a whole big to-do, and it really drove home to me that figuring out where your tailings go is very important. In Update 10, as long as your tailings are 20 blocks below the surface, 20 to 30 blocks below the surface, you're good. They won't be sort of polluting the area around you if you're that far down. Because I think it's better to do something right than to do the bare minimum, I still would say go as far down as possible, to bedrock, or kind of, down as far as you can before setting up your tailings stockpiles. We'll go look at that. But this is your rocker box. So this is how you turn your crushed copper, your crushed gold, your crushed iron, and your sand, or your silica tag, I should say, into the processed material. So you get copper concentrate, gold concentrate, iron concentrate, and sand. So this is the step you need to do before you're able to smelt. This makes sense. This is what happens in real life. You have to sift out the good minerals from the other stuff. In this case, we're literally using water to do so. Let's see if we don't really have anything that we can process through. Let's process some sand here so you can see the process. So basically we're using water, which is why we get wet tailings. Ta-da! So those are your two main ways of processing your stone, aside from using the research table, which we have a whole video on research and things like that. So you can reference that if you need to. Now, let's talk storage strategy, okay? So for me, this is key. A lot of people do this, which is basically, unlike Minecraft, yes, you can mine straight down. You don't have to worry about it too much. Make sure you do have the ladder materials to get back up. You can also cheese it and do unstuck, but since we're doing tutorials, we don't want to advocate too much for things that may get changed in the game at some point. But for right now, you can unstuck your way up and it'll teleport you to the top, which is kind of lovely if you are a miner and you're going up and down that ladder for the millionth time. Now, storage, basic storage is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tall, okay? If you're doing this, let's just say the stone floor is the floor of your house or the surface. You dig down 5, right? And then you could place it like right here with your ladder, just 1 block off from it. Minimum usage, minimum digging out. You have 5 by 5. You have your first storage. I like to call this basement 1 or sub 1. Obviously our large stockpile is up above us, so it's the naming structure here is a little different, but this is our temporary tailing stockpile for the case of this particular location. So we're going to use this crushed rock as our example tailings. So that is here. Let's say this is, where you're processing all your stuff. It's right near your house. It's up near the surface. And so then you're going to want to come in here and you want to leave the block underneath your stockpile. So as you can see, this is one little up. So let's just count it from here. We got one right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you want the 6th one, this one here that's highlighted, that's your floor. So what I oftentimes do is I will mine this out and I'll put a different type of block there to sort of count this out and lay it out. And then what you can do is start mining right here or start mining up here, like I have right here. As you can see, you start mining at that level, you mine out the area you want to mine, and then you mine down to the block that you want to mine at. Now, we were laying this out for large stockpiles, so I put my wooden block down to the level that we're going to be at for the large stockpile, and right underneath that, I put down a table. I really like the tool bench because this reaches really far, and this is sort of, let's call this your basic elevator interface. So we are the manual elevator here. We're taking from our temporary tailing storage down to our elevator sub 3. This is, by design, what I'm showing you, the minimal amount of effort to get things down to the bottom of the world. So as you can see, we had our big stockpile, then we had our small stockpile, and then here we are with our tool bench. This is just bridging up to down. And again, this is why I like to name things. We've got elevator sub number 3, tailings temp. So tailings temp is above us, elevator sub 3 is below us. We go down, right? So I've marked it. We have, you're going to have to mine these out, right? Like as you're going, which is why you want your cart. You want your cart to be able to mine these out and teleport things up through your network. So here's our sub 3 one. All right, let's keep going down. And then we're going to have another tool bench. I like to think of it as an Oreo, the storage is the cookie and the tool bench is the cream. So now we're moving our crushed rock all the way down into our tailing stockpile. Now I'm actually going to put it back up because I don't really want crushed rock down here, but this is the example of how we would take our tailings down once this is all set up. And then we've got our final stockpiles. And as you can see, I liked to put 2 right onto either side. So you're going to come down, you're going to dig 5 out, 5 up. And then, of course, being the overachiever I am, we put large stockpiles down here and I'm expanding. And as you can see, I am in the process of hollowing out an area for a 3rd one because we have been just filling these up with wet tailings and dry tailings. So the item, interestingly, the wet tailings you'll be creating early on, and I wish the text of the regular tailings had this in it, which is it talks about it's a waste product from concentrating ore. When storing improperly, the runoff will create pollution, killing nearby plants and seeping into the water supply. Buried deep underground to help neutralize the effect. So in the regular tailings, which only come from the more advanced processing methods, it tells you what to do with it. In the basic ones that you'll be doing early on, it doesn't tell you. But anyway, just bury it deep down. You can go overboard like I have, or you can just keep it 20 to 30 below. Now, let's do a little cheesiness. Look at that. Yeah. See? So if you're sick of going up and down your ladder after a million times, that trick may not work forever, but it's glorious. So anyway, that's sort of the basic storage elevator layout until you can actually build a elevator. I mean, once you have an elevator itself, that's nice because you can put a cart and you can go up and down, and you can get the industrial elevator. You can put a truck and go up and down. It's great. So then when you upgrade, the next level of processing upgrade, which you're not going to do for a pretty decent amount of time, you're going to be using your rocker boxes and your arastas for a lot as the mining person. But when you do upgrade, you'll get the stamp mill. The stamp mill allows you to crush things like basalt and gneiss. It allows you basically to do all sorts of different things. You can also crush mortared stone. So if you have a bunch of mortared stone that you just want to get rid of and process into something else, I don't know why you would, but you know, it might come up. Same thing if you have a bunch of roads that you're pulling up, maybe when you're switching over to asphalt roads, I guess. And then you can also crush slag, which is a product from smelting that we'll talk about soon. So this allows you to crush everything. But it's important to know that the crushed mixed rock and the crushed basalt and the crushed shale really can only be used in asphalt concrete recipes, stone roads. So you're still using those things for the same items that you would use crushed sandstone and crushed granite for. But the advantage to crushed granite and to crushed sandstone is you can turn that into sand, which can be turned into mortar. And mortar is very, very important. Then we have our upgraded screening machine, which, as you can see, makes tailings versus wet tailings, which is lovely. But you can only, you know, make certain recipes, dry iron and sand. So it's faster, it's more efficient, but it does use power that pollutes. So in a way, the arastas and rocker boxes are just fantastic. They are great. These will give you a little bit more bang for your buck, so you will get more from your materials, and they're faster. However, they pollute. So it's always a trade-off. As the mining person, you're probably going to end up taking masonry. Now let's see. Do we even have a masonry bench here? I honestly don't think. Oh yeah, we do. Okay. So you're probably going to take on masonry. Masonry is great. It's amazing. It allows you to do a lot of tier 1 building. So you have just your mortared stone, but it also allows you to make the different types of mortared stone. So you can make mortared limestone, which is my favorite building material. I love mortared limestone. It's very pretty. Then you can make mortared sandstone, mortared granite, mortared stone, you know, that's just your basic sort of blue. We've got a darker gray, we've got the white, we've got the kind of pink tones. So a lot of times people on the server will ask you for specific types of mortared stone, so you'll probably want to stock all the different sort of types so that people have some different things that they can use. And of course, mortared stone needs mortar. So mortar is one of those things that you can make a few different ways. You can make it on the campfire with fiber. You can make it with sand. And if you make it with sand, as you see, you get 3 per 1 thing of sand. So this is really, as a masonry person, as a mining person, this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be taking all that excess granite and sandstone that you're mining out, you're going to crush it up, and you're going to turn it into sand, and then you're going to turn that sand into mortar, and then you're going to turn that mortar into mortared stone. It's just a really good way to go through. Also, just as a point to note, mortar can go into regular chests, so this is also a way of clearing out your stockpiles and getting things into chests. So get all of your sandstone and your granite moved into the chests in the form of mortar. Also, you will be really key as the miner masonry person Making statues, because that's really, really important for increasing housing values. Obviously furniture and things like that. Fireplaces, you're really, 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 really going to need to do that, because that's one of the first items you can turn something into a living room. So, any of the professions that you're building the tier 1 building materials, you're going to be key right off the bat. So you can make the mill. There's a lot of the workstations that you can make in here. You can make the stone braziers, which I really love these. These are so lovely. I don't know if we have any crushed. Yeah, we do. There we go. Let's just turn it on. So I think it's a nice lighting source. It's really quite nice. So anyway, so those are the two sort of professions that you are going to pair together. Now, we're 30 minutes in, so I'm going to try and be conscious of all your time. We're just going to highlight these. We can go deeper into these professions if at any point you really want to deep dive these. Pottery is your second tier 2 material up that is tied in really well to mining. So that's one that you're probably going to want to get into pretty quickly if you're able to. There's a lot of items through here. Bricks are the best tier 2 material, I would say. Like the best, easiest to get a hold of in update 10. Then let's talk actual smelting, which is a separate profession. Oops, we dropped a little bit too far. So smelting is its own profession. You will have to make a bloomery, which is made on, as you can see, it was made up there on the pottery kiln. So the potter will have to make a bloomery. You may or may not be able to take on pottery and smelting. I would prioritize smelting over pottery. So get the potter on the server to make you a bloomery. Now, you're going to definitely want to create an anvil, and you're going to start to smelt your concentrates, and you will end up with another byproduct. So as I mentioned, mining is very much all about storage, because you're going to have all these byproducts that you're not going to be able to do much with to start with. So these are just going to be stored somewhere, especially the slag. And but as the smelter on the server, you are going to be indispensable, because you are going to be the provider of iron, and everybody needs iron, everybody needs nails. So being the mining masonry smelter on a server is awesome. If you want to break it into different professions, you definitely can, so that every person has their thing. But that's sort of the idea. Then we've got the anvil, which uses your smelting labor. So this is still smelting labor. On your anvil, you can make all sorts of lovely stuff. You can make the cast iron stove, which your cook's gonna love. You can make pipes. You can make frames. You can make iron tools, which is amazing. So as the smelter, you can make the good tools. You can repair the tools. You can do all sorts of stuff with the tools. And for your carpentry buddies who are making lumber, you can make nails, which if you have me on your server, you're just going to have me begging you for nails all the time. So I feel like a lot of times the smelter ends up being very, very integral to everything. You can make a bank. There's a lot that you're going to be making as the smelter. Okay? So that's sort of that. Now, we talked a little bit about upgrading from the standpoint of different things. The next upgrade from your little bloomery downstairs, the bloomery downstairs does not create a ton of pollution. You're going to go up to the blast furnace. This thing creates a huge amount of pollution. You will get more product for your concentrate on this, and this is where you're going to start making your steel. That you have to have advanced smelting for some of these materials. You can still use your regular smelting for the things you can make before. But this is where your quicklime comes in. Remember when I said crushed limestone? Limestone's going to be super important. Limestone is really important. So quicklime used for concrete. You make your rebar here. You make all of the stuff that's needed for mechanic stuff and electronics and all your industry. So this ends up being your smelting go-to. However, if your planet is really suffering because there's a lot of pollution, you may still use your little bloomeries. I would generally phase them out because the more efficient you can be with materials, the better. You know, it's up to you. So this is your advanced smelting setup. This has to be hooked up to a pipe, and it has to be hooked up to wastewater. So let's look at the connections. So we've got water in, sewage out. So this again, this is a huge polluter. So what we have is we have water out, goes to it should go to the the filtration, but I'm actually seeing a pipe going straight back out here, which worries me. I wonder if my co-builder here. Anyway, we'll have to check that later, but once you're able to get one of these water filters, it's great to hook it up because then it takes all that sewage and nastiness from your bloomery or from your blast furnace and it processes it in. You get compost, and then clean water can go back out. We have not been doing much processing, so we have beautiful clear water, but you will see you definitely want to set up your bloomery and smelting stuff somewhere where it's not near your farmlands, because you will be polluting. You definitely cannot avoid it in update 10. It's kind of driven Dag a bit crazy, who's our big he's our big smelter industry guy, and he's like, I really like pushing to green tech and then being at green tech, and you know, it's they're forcing you to pollute in update 10, and it was driving him a little nuts, but that's just the way it goes. So you're gonna need you know, a fuel source, of course, for the blast furnace. You don't need any particular power yet. And that's sort of, I think that's probably in a nutshell enough information for now. We can look into engineering, mechanics, electronics, industry, and sort of that sort of crafting mechanical professions as our next go-to. I would say out of all of the professions, I have done mining and smelting a ton. This server I pushed into this tech just so I could be able to explain it better. So I'm not as well versed in these, but I can now explain them, having used them, having leveled up a little bit. Honorable mention. Tier 4 materials. The advanced masonry table is going to be really choice. As the masonry person, you're going to be able to get here a lot faster than any of the other professions. Also, if you decide to take on concrete, you're going to be able to make the tier, I think concrete is tier 3. So this is the stepping stone to getting to tier 4. So this is your tier 3 building material, which is concrete. As you can see, you need quicklime, you need the, you know, clay to make cement. There's a lot that goes into it. So you start out as just mining, but you have a lot of potential for where you can go with it. You can go into the concrete making, you can go into the advanced stoneworking and make all these really neat stuff. We have in this building, this is all tier 4 stone, and then we've got the tier 4 wood composite, because I wanted to do the composite stuff. That was my goal. But as things go and as tutorials go, I was like, all right, we gotta get up to the stone level. So we got the stone set up, and I think it looks pretty good. It's I actually like some of the tier 1 stone, the way it looks, like as I said, the limestone and such. But you know what, the gneiss out here in the swamp, it looks decent. I'm keeping the brick gutters just because I built that cute little sort of bioswale gutters up there. I'm a landscape architect in real life, so I try and green things up and do a little landscaping around anything, even if it is we built this as we're gonna destroy the environment, you know, everything is gonna die here. I was like, I'm still gonna plant pretty things. Okay. So that's mining in a nutshell. That's mining and all the associated professions. If you have any questions, or if you have personal tips that you use to make mining a little bit easier, a little bit more accessible, let me know. Thank you, as always, for being here for our tutorials and playing this amazing game that we all enjoy. Hopefully, I'll get to see some of you on our summer server that we're going to be booting up. I think we're gonna do a pretty large world. We're gonna do a boss university, so we're going to sort of titrate the amount of progress. We're not going to have an asteroid or anything like that. We're just going to slowly go through so that everybody gets to get into their profession. They get to specialize, and as a group, we'll all work together to level up through the tech so that everybody gets to learn it and really get the full experience of playing this game as a group. So it's going to be fantastic. I will catch y'all around next time for the mechanical and industrial stuffs.